Here's another way we can protect our identity, and that is using the Privileged Access Workstation designation. This is what Microsoft uses to define the hardware and software configurations required to create dedicated administrative workstations. So there's two different types of workstations in our environment. The first one, non-privileged computers, and the second are privileged computers. So the difference between these two are, let's take the scenario of an administrator who needs to access Active Directory using the RSAT tools. Those are the remote server administration tools. And those tools allow us to use Active Directory users and computers, Administrative Center, and other Active Directory tools where we can manage Active Directory. The problem is that we don't want the administrator to be able to access Active Directory from just any computer. We want to make sure the computer the administrator uses is in one of these privileged computer groups. So we have to set this up using a group policy object. This includes creating an Active Directory substructure devoted to privileged access workstation users and group policy settings that enforce the administrator's roles. Let's go into one of our domain controllers, and we're going to open up Tools and then Active Directory Users and Computers. And we're going to go and create a couple of new organizational units. So let's right-click and choose New, OU, and we'll call it PAW, and we'll create a second one, and we'll call this non-PAW, or whatever you want to call it. So for our PAW computers, those are going to be the ones that are privileged. Our non-PAW computers are not going to be privileged. They're not going to have local access to our servers or Active Directory. Then we'll take our computers, and any computer such as a client, we can either put into PAW or non-PAW based on whether we're going to allow them to access this privileged access workstation role. Now we're going to minimize and go back to Server Manager and open up Group Policy Management. In our Group Policy Management, we're now going to create and link group policy objects to our non-PAW and our PAW different organizational units that now show up. So let's start with a non-PAW. We'll just right-click and we'll choose to create a new GPO, and we'll just call it non-PAW. Click OK. And we'll go to PAW and do the same, but with the name PAW in this case. And there we go. So we have our linked Active Directory policies ready to be edited. Let's edit our non-PAW one first. These are for workstations we don't want to have access into our Active Directory servers. So let's right-click and choose Edit. And from here, we're going to make a change. We're going to start with Computer Configuration, Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Local Policies, User Rights. Now that we're in our user rights assignment for the non-PAW policy, we can go in here and deny various different things, such as denying logging on locally. We can deny log on as a service, we can deny logging on as a batch, and various other things where we can deny them from being able to access our domain controller. So once you enable the ones that you want to deny, you can go ahead and close. And now we're going to do the same with our PAW computers. Right-click and edit, and we'll go to the same place, but instead of denying, we're going to specifically allow them to have access to various different things. And here we'll say, access this computer from the network. We will define it. We will add a computer. In this case, we'll put in client 1 and apply. We can also allow it to log on locally. And once again, we'll type in client 1, or if we create a group of computers, we can put in that group and just add the computers to the group as time goes on. We also need to make sure administrators have the log on locally right and click OK. So we can go through these various different policies and define them with our client or our users to be able to get in and do privileged access from our workstations. Once we're done there, we go ahead and close it. And now we have our policies. Make sure that they are linked by right-clicking and choosing Link Enabled if they're not already. And the policies will go into effect when we run either GP update/force or we restart our computers. Now that our privileged access workstations are in place, we can deny or allow specific computers privileged access into our domain controllers and into Active Directory.